Hello and welcome to Let's Talk. And today my guest is Gerry McBrien, who doesn't give himself a title, but what he does is he is a headmaster of a small school and he is involved in a lot of amateur dramatics, and which has taken him to quite a few places, both in Belfast and down in Dublin. So this is the full-length interview today, and I hope you enjoy it, and I look forward to any comments you may give at the end. And please subscribe, and perhaps you might like to support us on Patreon. So this is Let's Talk, and my guest today is Gerry McBrien. Thank you very much for coming along and being
Not
interviewed.
a problem, George, not a problem.
Now, as we were starting out our little preamble, I normally give people a title, but how would you describe your title?
My title, I don't really have a title for myself. I'm just Gerry McBrien, a father, a husband, a friend, a brother, a son. I don't really have a title for myself. I mean, I am a headmaster, but that's just what I do. That's not who or, well, it's definitely not who I am. It's what I am, but it's not who I am.
So when you were younger, what kind of aspirations would you have had? Did you, or how did life treat you as a youngster?
I have to say, I can't talk of any great trauma or angst or anything like that in my upbringing. I was brought up in a time in West Belfast where there was a lot of trauma and a lot of fighting and rioting and gun battles and political unrest and civil unrest. I was very lucky. It never ever came to my door. Our parents were very good at shielding us from it all and keeping us on the straight and narrow, which in later years, when I had children of my own and I realised how difficult it is to be a parent and bring children up, how much more difficult that must have been in a state of civil unrest and insurrection, and how difficult that must have been was 100 times worse than our own experience. So I went to them specifically and I said, like, I think the two of you did a fantastic job. Don't know how you did it, because not a lot of my contemporaries, a number of my contemporaries would have ended up in jail. Some ended up in the graveyard, and we were lucky that we were kept on the straight and narrow. I'm not casting aspersions on anybody else's parents, but times were tough. They were.
So there was a way that your parents kind of dealt with you and treated you, and
I suppose by their influence, by their actions, they were both very religious people. So I mean, we were at church quite a lot. We lived beside Clonard Monastery in the Lower Falls. I was in Clonard quite a bit as a child. But it must have been tough. Mm-hmm. It must have been very tough. And I tell my own sons what it was like when I was kind of their age and younger, about gun battles, riots, and things like that. And they think I'm talking about something that happened on Mars, which isn't a bad thing. They are both in the generation after the Troubles supposedly finished, and that's a totally alien concept to them. They think that's nuts. I said, well, it wasn't nuts, but that's how it was. How did you get through it? What was it? You just got through it. You just got on with it.
I think from my experiences, I came to Northern Ireland in 1984, and when I was initially assigned to come to the BBC, I was doing assistant editing work, and I got the impression there was two worlds. There was the violence, the problems, and then there was this other world that was really quite interesting and very cultural, and music was really good.
Oh yeah.
And it was almost as though, from a filmmaker's perspective, as though someone had actually got a war movie and put it over a pop movie, and just the two of them never saw one another. That was something I remember.
It's a very interesting way of putting it, George. I suppose there were places that were never affected ever. The leafy suburbs of North Down and other places like that, never experienced any great strife at all, But then other places were ripped apart by it, and communities ripped apart, and lives ripped apart. Hopefully and thankfully it's all past us, I hope.
Did you have much experience with either socialising or working with people from the other community?
None.
And how did that influence the way that you thought about people?
Didn't influence me one way or the other, because yet again, I have to pay testament to my parents again, who were people who had of a religious background, who were very much that, everybody, okay, people might go to different churches, but that didn't mean we're different. They were people, and that's how we should treat people as people. I have to say that the people who taught me in schools were of very much the same mind. I was never taught in school that Protestants were evil, horrible, nasty people. If anything, we were taught that there were people who had a different set of beliefs to us, but apart from that, they weren't any greatly different. They were just people who went to a different church. I would have to say I was never inculcated by anything like that ever in any of the schools I went to.
So did you go to a series of schools, or was it just?
Well, I went to primary school. School, which was St Gall's Primary School, which was at behind Clonard Monastery. If anybody knows the geography of Belfast, and it was at the end of Bombay Street, which was burnt. Actually, it was at the bottom of our street. It was burnt at the start of the Troubles in 1969. I went to St Gall's Primary School, and then from there I went to the Christian Brothers, firstly in Barrack Street, which was the old St Mary's, and then I went up to the new place for my last 2 years in school.
Okay. What was the new place?
Oh, on the Glen Road.
On the Glen Road.
The Christian Brothers originally, St Mary's was originally in Barrack Street, and then they built a new school. Maybe it was new, but around maybe the mid-late 60s, brand spanking new school on the side of the mountain on the Glen Road.
And you mentioned earlier on that you'd kind of fallen into education. What was the journey into education like?
After doing A-levels, I had decided that at that stage I had got friendly with a crowd in Dublin. Long story how that happened. A family in Dublin, they're all musicians, the O'Briens. They're all superb, absolutely top class traditional musicians. Dennis, the oldest guy, unfortunately died. Donnacha O'Brien unfortunately died in 1990. He had muscular dystrophy, and it eventually shortened his life. His brother, Micheál O'Brien, Mick as I call him, they all call him Mick. Mick's a top class uilleann paper, and I mean top class uilleann paper. Tom O'Brien played the fiddle, Andrew O'Brien played the fiddle, John, the young one, he was only a baby then. So I got friendly with them. So I was up and down to Dublin quite a bit. And then when I left school, I went to UCD. I was doing Irish and French. It didn't take me long, it just wasn't really for me. I didn't particularly like it. I was staying in a place in Drumcondra with a guy that I'd met. He was from County Cavan, and he was doing a postgrad course in education in St Pat's in Drumcondra. So he was doing his teaching practice, and he was preparing all this stuff that teachers have to prepare, make little nets of cubes and cuboids and all this stuff, getting his shapes and his solid shapes and his flat shapes and all that, worksheets. And I said, God, that looks interesting. That looks fine. I could do that. I think I would like that. So I left UCD, and the following September I started in St Joseph's College of Education in Belfast in September 1979, and graduated in 1982.
And what was your experience in getting into? Did you teach in secondary schools? Or
Well, in teaching practice, obviously the subjects were still Irish and French. So the first year we all were in primary school. Second and third year was teaching practice with secondary schools. The first year out, I was subbing mostly in secondary, teaching my subject. But then, at that stage, I was qualified to either teach in secondary or teach in primary, and the job that I got was in a primary school. So that's how I ended up in a primary school.
What aspects did you enjoy of teaching in primary school?
The crack with the children. One thing I've found, children are great. Children could teach us adults an awful lot more than adults let on. Children have a great knack of living in the present. They do. They don't. They live in the moment. They don't really have an awful lot of worries, bar maybe, oh, I'll get in trouble because I didn't do what mum or dad said to me. But they don't have all the worries and problems that, for the most part, I'm not saying to their children who do suffer an awful lot of trauma and a lot of stuff going on that we don't know about. I'm not saying that they all do, but generally they live in the moment. And it's great fun. I used to bring in the guitar and we would do a lot of singing. I mean, if things got hot and heavy, which sometimes they do, I say, right, okay, time out. And would do all sorts of sing songs just and have a bit of crack. And those days you could wander off into a tangent and talk about anything and just sit around and talk to the kids and have time with it and have a bit of fun, a bit of crack, which I would call the incidental curriculum, you know. And that's basically, I enjoyed it. I'm not saying it was great all the time, it wasn't, but it's mostly fun. I think I get more fun than anything else out of it myself.
And I think, again, as having been a lecturer and a teacher, there's been times where I've got so much from what I've learned from the students through the conversations that they've wanted, and they've taught me more. Of
course they have. It's the old line from The King and I, where your woman goes, "Oh, by your pupils you'll be taught." Yeah, and it's true. It's true, and the crack has been good over the years. It really has.
So music has been a very important part of your teaching.
Absolutely. Music and singing has always been a huge part of my life. Even come back to at home, somebody asked me once, what was your abiding memory of home? I said, well, music, singing. My father worked, and my mother, they had this little sort of corner sweetie shop. And my mother, we're big fans of the Clancy Brothers and Tommy Makem. And she had all the records, used to play them. Well, just to keep her going, which was in and out of the shop. So we knew all the songs. So I was brought up singing all those Clancy Brothers songs, or listening to them, listening to the Dubliners, listening to Irish music. And that was just, so I sang it as well, you know. I actually sang with the Clancys.
Oh, right, okay.
Oh, yes. They did a concert in Belfast. I don't know what age I must have been about 8, whatever it was, in the late 60s. In the Ulster Hall, and myself and my brother and my 2 cousins, we were there, the choir seats at the back of the stage in the Ulster Hall. We were right down the very bottom, and every song the Clancy sang, we knew it, so we sang along. And they came out to do their encore, and they said, we're going to do our encore now, and we're going to get these 4 drunks behind us to come up and help us. So it was myself, my brother, the 2 cousins. There we were at the front of the stage in the Ulster Hall, singing along with the Clancys. I remember sitting looking down going, yeah, this is not bad, you know. I could do this. So
and you've continued.
Yeah, I've sung in the Ulster Hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, many's a time since, yeah.
So are you part of a group or choral group or something?
Yeah, well, I always played music and sang, and I mentioned that the boys in Dublin, I've been involved in playing in traditional sessions and things like that, because I was always a singer more than a musician. And I joined St Agnes's Choral Society. It must have been about late 84, 85. I was at a party one night and had the guitar with me as always. My guitar went everywhere. Chris, you're not a bad singer, you should come and join. I said, what do you think? Yeah, come on and join. So I went up and joined, and that led me to places where I got to sing in some fabulous places. I got to do shows, I got to do parts in shows, and then the Opera House in Belfast, Ulster Hall, the Waterfront Hall, National Stadium, National Concert Hall in Dublin. You know, it was a huge part of my life, where I met my wife as well.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, St Agnes's Choral Society.
And what sort of what sort of musicals did they put on? How did they choose?
Well, we say at that stage, Gilbert and Sullivan was still a staple of the amateurs. Simply amazing, you didn't have to pay the rights, because the copyright had run out on the rights, so you could do the Gilbert and Sullivans, and you could do whatever you liked with them. And but lovely music. I mean, they got a bit staid and a bit sort of, you know, but they got a bit snooty, that, you know, that had to be done a particular way. You had to do this and you had to do it, and all had to be done the same way. And it got a bit snooty, you know, they really did. I mean, and there were comic operas. They were satire. They were very much satire at the time. And so people started doing things with them and making sort of modernising them, and they were doing the Rodgers and Hammerstein stuff, and your Oklahomas and your South Pacifics and Lerner and Lowe, My Fair Ladies and that. And we were going to the Opera House, so you have to pick shows that would sell. We had to put the bums in the seats. So there were those kind of shows. Then up to more modern times, it has changed. The younger generation now, they're not want to be opera singers. They want to be West End performers. So the shows are all different now. I mean, what have I done? I've been in Legally Blonde. I did a fantastic one which called "I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change," which if anybody ever gets to see it, it is hilarious. I mean, there were 6 of us in the cast, and we laughed every single night. And we knew it was coming, but seeing all the scenes, things like that. It's been great. It has been a great fun over the years. Great hobby.
So doing a show. How long does it normally go from when you start things, set up things, to the actual performance?
It depends on the show. I mean, first of all, you have to spend time learning the music. So that could take anything for 4, 5, 6, whatever. It depends on how long they set so the company can learn the music. But then production rehearsals, 4, 5 weeks maybe. Right. Because all of us are working, so it's not as if the people are coming in and rehearse during the day. You can do it at weekends. Like we'd lose Saturdays and Sundays during the run up to it, and then it becomes more intense as you're coming towards the start of the show. But the week before it, it's like rehearse, run the show, the costumes, tech rehearsals, dress rehearsals, and then you're on, and then it's all over.
It's all over, yeah.
6 or 7 performances and gone. That's another one done. But great fun.
With again, because I'm a filmmaker and I've done sort of scripting and all that, what kind of processes do you go through when you get the initial script for one of those plays?
How am I going to learn all that? You just have to sit down and learn it.
Right.
That's really that's the way I've done it. What's the most script I've ever done would have been when I did Tevier and Fiddler on the Roof. You just have to sit and learn it and go over it and go over it and go over it. That just has to be done. But then when it comes to actually rehearsing and running the scenes, it becomes easier. Mm-hmm. At the start, it's like learning stuff out of school, and you go, oh, but it has to be done.
No, we've played together. I play the violin with you, and we in a little group. And what's been lovely is how you've just started playing a repertoire of music. How easy do you find sort of the tunes for that music?
Well, if they're Irish tunes, there's a lot of them I would know anyway, or I would have heard over the years. People say to me, "Do you know such and such a song?" And I go, "Well, if you sing it, I'll play," because the chances are that I have heard it at some stage and I have a fair idea of how it goes. And okay, sometimes and not sometimes, quite often I make messes with chords and things like that. But I generally get there.
Is it mainly chords that you play, or do you play rhythm or anything?
That's chords mostly. I mean, I did this myself, and a mate did a wee 2-piece for a lot of years too, around pubs and clubs doing, like Elvis stuff and Neil Diamond, and that was a bit of fun as well,
So there's a lot that has been done that way.
Yeah, just stuff you pick up over the years.
How would you nurture someone that was thinking of getting into sort of playing music? What would you encourage them to do?
Go for it. Definitely go for it. If that's what you want to do, give it a go. Don't sit there or don't stand and say, "Well, I can't do that." Go and try it. Certainly as regards the performance aspect of things, go for it. I mean, if you think you can do that, and you head in and you go ahead and do it, and never worry about making mistakes. Because if you're doing whatever in front of an audience, you'll find the audience is on your side anyway, and rooting for you. So, go for it.
I in the last year I've started playing. I've learnt the violin over the last 6 years, but in the last year I've actually been playing in church, and quite often I only get the music that morning.
I love the spontaneity of that. I just love the spontaneity. The most spontaneous one I ever got was a number of years ago when we were in the midst of doing I Love You, You're Perfect. We were at a rehearsal date, and one of the other companies in Belfast were rehearsing, and the director of it had been a friend of mine for a long time, and I hadn't seen him in a long time, so I was hanging around waiting just to say hello and how you doing, God, and what's been happening the last 6-7 years since I've seen you. And he came in and I says, oh my God, you do not look well. What are you doing? You're burning the candle at both ends. He said, not well. He said, you need to look after yourself. You're really starting to need looking after yourself, doing all this driving up and down. The guy was living in Galway at the time, driving up and down and up, and I said, you need to. So that was okay. Later on in the night, one of the company officials came to me and said, he's not well. I said, I kind of guessed that. He says, he's doing a part in the show. He said, could you do it for him? I said, well, all right. I said, when's the show on? I thought he said Tuesday week. And this was something like a Wednesday or Thursday night. I said, okay, fair enough. But he wasn't Tuesday week, it was the following Tuesday. Yeah. In the Opera House in Belfast. So I got 2.5 rehearsals, one of which was the dress rehearsal, and then went on. Fantastic fun. It was so much liberty. I mean, I obviously had to learn this stuff, had to learn very quickly, but it was just so spontaneous. It was great fun. Absolutely one of the best ones I've ever done. It was just great crack. And I love the spontaneity of all that. Just do it.
And obviously you have different audiences, and different audiences give different feelings. So how have you had to adapt from one performance to the next, depending on the audience? I've
never really much thought about that, because I'm too busy. Now, I'm not ignoring the audience. Everything you're doing is for the audience, but you have a lot of concentration going on. I mean, at one stage there, a number of years ago, I said to a guy who was a director, was it coming? I forget what show it was. We're coming up. There was a whole lot of young ones in it, and they were all woo 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 and high fiving each other. This is coming towards opening night, and I'm going, boy, I'm getting nervous here. And I said to him, I said, the longer I do this, the more nervous I get. He says, that's because you know what can go wrong. Like, there's so much can go wrong. People can miss cues. People can miss a whole page of script. The stage manager can miss a cue. The conductor can miss a cue. You can miss a cue. There's you need to be on the ball the whole way through, concentrating 100% the whole time. Get your lines right and be in the right place at the right time and not bump into the furniture and knock something over. So, audiences do differ during the week. Towards the Friday, I always thought a Friday night audience was hard to entertain, because I'm kind of worried it was the end of the week and they'd all rushed home from work and they had to get themselves gathered and get a bite to eat and get dressed and get changed and rush out to the show, and they'd all sort of go, right, we're here now, entertain us. I always thought they were a tougher crowd on a Friday because they were tired, where Saturday night was really out to enjoy themselves anyway. Don't know how true that is, but I always got that impression.
Do you find that because of the involvement with those kind of groups and that kind of entertainment, it is about trying to make life a bit more light-hearted for most people that maybe take things too seriously?
Certainly in the bad times and the troubles, the amateur companies did keep a lot of things going in the likes of Belfast. But it was all in their own communities. I haven't really much thought about that, but I always have said that in the troubles was when there was nothing in Belfast. The amateur companies, not just musical companies, but amateur dramatic groups, kept a lot of the social life going, entertainment going. I'm convinced of that.
And with the new technologies that are happening now that are making people more isolated, I mean, do you feel that the entertainment is changed? How does that affect what you're now doing as a performer?
I don't think it has changed that much. People still like to come and see a live show. They like to come out, and even a lot of the young ones. I mean, the young ones they're just incredible, and they're going to everybody's show, and they're mad keen to get involved and dancing and singing and acting, and they're fantastic. They're absolutely, the amount of talent that's out there is just frighteningly good. It really is. People still love a live show and getting on the stage and doing it.
I was in I paid a visit to the Bus Fest in Banbridge.
All right.
and actually bumped into one of my students there busking away. But I thought, well, that might be good to have a crack at that. Have you ever done Busk Fest?
No, I've never done the Busk Fest. My son did it. He and his friend did it. You know, I think it's great. It certainly in Banbridge it added to it added a great frisson to the whole place on that Saturday. And then what they had the first 2 years of it, then they had an open air concert. And I think one year the Proclaimers were there, and it was a fantastic atmosphere, and it was just brilliant. But then the following year the council decided that no, they weren't going to do that anymore, and they had a bar. No more bar. And that killed it.
Oh, right. Okay.
Killed it.
But this year it seems to have come back again.
They still had the Busk Fest.
Yes.
But they didn't have the open air concert.
Ah, right, yes.
And they didn't have people, and there wasn't any great scenes of drunkenness or anything like that. There weren't. But the local worthies decided that no, they couldn't support the consumption of alcohol. It would be something they couldn't support.
I'm trying to think of from the educational point of view. Are there processes that you would engage with in the way that you teach your students or have taught your students to encourage them and nurture them for how they should prepare for their lives?
Well, we're talking primary school children, so obviously yes, school is very much a socialisation into how society at large operates. I mean, the right and wrong, and how you treat people, how you talk to people, how you think about people, which in a Catholic school would be very much informed by our Catholic faith. You know, and it's the same in other schools. I mean, other schools are informed by Christian faith, or you know, I'm not saying it's not as good. I'm just saying it's different. It's a different way of doing things, and it's basically actually, as I tell the children, well, if you want to be treated well, you treat others well. Treat others well. Be nice. It's not hard to be nice. Don't be fighting. I said, don't be fighting with people. Don't be nasty to people. Don't say horrible things. If you can't say something nice, don't say anything. Simple things, but how basically they treat their friends, their colleagues, their parents, and to do well. I'll say you all know what the right thing is to do and what the wrong thing is to do. I said, now you have a choice. You can choose to do the right thing, or you can choose to do the wrong thing. Now, that's up to you. You'll be given free will. However, you then have to realise there are consequences. So I said, you're completely free to walk out of here, lift a brick and fire through somebody's window. That's your choice. And if you want to do that, you can do it. However, first of all, you know it's not the right thing to do. You know, you don't need me to tell you that. You know it's not the right thing to do. And secondly, then you'll have to accept the consequences of your action.
When I was teaching in schools then, I was getting the 16, 17-year-olds,
Mm-hmm.
and they were often asking me to tell them what to do, whereas I was saying at that stage they were having to find their own way. But obviously they've gone through secondary school and you've got them at primary, but it's a different form of education, I assume, at that point.
Well, it would be. I mean, with the younger children, you are telling them what to do. There is this actual thing called teaching, where you actually teach them what to do. You know, rather than find out. I mean, we've had all that in education as well. That children learn better by exploring. Some of them do, not all of them. You know, or the children work together best as a group. Some of them do, not all of them. And very often, you know, they learn by finding out, they research. Yes, some of them do. But the most effective and the most efficient is to actually teach them, is to stand and teach. Now, you don't do that all the time. You have to adapt your whatever you're doing to whatever is going on at that particular time. There'll be, yes, an element of nowadays, I mean, in the classroom, the whole world's at the fingertips with internet and all the stuff that's on computers that's available to the children. We have whiteboards and I guess the entire world is at our fingertips. All the information in the world is there to be looked at. and used and things like that. So, yes, they are used to being told this is how you do it, because that's teaching.
It kind of reminds me. I'm learning to play, learning a new piece of software. I'm also learning to play instruments and things. But part of the discipline that you have to go through is you have to set yourself down and either read the instructions or be given instructions on how to do something, so you can. And again, that comes through practice. That would that be something similar to?
Well, you when you would be doing that, you'd be calling on all sorts of different things in your background that you've done already over the years to help you do that. Whereas younger children don't have that experience to call on. They learn to get that. They learn where to go. They learn, but that's part of the learning process as well.
So they're almost like a clean white sheet or whiteboard.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes and no. I mean, they come with various experiences from home. Some children are more experienced with and more exposed to books and things like that and learning than others. But they have to be taught. You sort of they just don't rock up and P1 and are able to do everything. You don't have to learn their sounds. They have to learn the letters. They have to learn to read. They have to learn how to get on with each other. Which for children that young, that's a major shock for some kids, and so it's all to do with their socialization and their emotional development, their socio-emotional development, because they're coming from a house where possibly they are the absolute kingpin or queenpin in the house. They're doted upon, and their every whim is catered for, and then they're put into a classroom full of 20 or 25 other kingpins or queenpins who are doted upon and are the centre of attraction in their own house, and then they all have to get on with each other, and that's a huge learning curve. That's a huge shock. Give me that. That's mine. Oh, share. Well, you see, sharing is an alien thing to children of that age. Why should they? That's mine.
Yeah.
There's great logic to that, though. Having said that, why should I share that with you? That's mine. I'm not giving it to you. Why should I? See, there's a whole lot of learning goes on, even in they're hilarious. Like, they really are very, very funny.
What I think what's interesting is that part of learning from my perspective has been learning to tell stories and the structure of script writing. And one of the things that you were talking about just there was that the kind of structures that you start to put in place to help teach students, and the importance of teaching at that stage, whereas I might have been coming into teaching where the students already have a body of knowledge and we're kind of building upon that. So,
well, that would be, I mean, we would be involved in, well, first of all, teaching them how to read.
Yes.
Teaching them how to write. Teaching them how to construct sentences. Teaching them how to build upon that. You build upon that year upon year. I mean, they do simple stories, simple diary. The big thrust is writing for different purposes. Although, if you think about it now, and with handwriting, of course, if you think about it though, and spelling, sounds, all that, then we have mathematics, but if you're talking about the writing aspect of things,
comprehension as well.
Well, yeah, but up to understand both literally and inferentially as well. If you really think about it though, how many of us need to actually write?
These days, not many, probably.
You know, how many of us need to be able to write a particular piece of writing as a newspaper report, or as a story, or if you actually think about it, how many of us actually use pens and write letters or anything like that? I mean, a lot of the stuff is word processed now. You know, you actually sort of think about that. Well, now you should be writing, trying to write creatively and use proper adjectives. You have to teach adjectives, adverbs, verbs, and stuff like that. You go, how many of you are actually going to do it? You'll need if you're going to go to school, if you're going to go further in school, if you're going to go to further on in your career, of course you need to write. But then you need to be able to write essays, assignments, And they're very, very structured, extremely structured. You know, but a lot of that doesn't come in until possibly you're heading towards third level, master's degree. I mean, I did a master's degree and I had to learn to write to a certain template.
Yeah.
You know, bibliography had to be done in a particular way. It had to be the Harvard method of doing it. If it wasn't the Harvard method, they were, you can't do that. But how many of us actually do you need to write? Very few, I would say. I would say that more of us need to use mathematics in our everyday life. I like to tell the children how smart their mums are, or their dads, whoever does the shopping. What do you mean? I said, have a lot of mental maths going on there. My mum has to go into the supermarket and see all this stuff for $2.99 or $3 for whatever. I said, mum has to sit and work out or stand and work out very, very quickly. Which is the better value? There's a whole lot of mathematics going on, more than writing. You need to read. We all need to. If you're, I don't know how you could get through modern society without being able to read. And unfortunately, there are people who still go through the system who can't read, or who read very poorly, or not able to. I mean, and sometimes I scratch my head and wonder how that could be the case, because there's so much emphasis on it.
Do you think the technology, especially the texting, has kind of influenced the
How
way
it does, yeah. I mean, that I get a bit sniffy about that. There's too much. I can't stand all this people writing you instead of you and short and everything. A text speak. I can't stand that. I can't stand bad grammar either.
And what about in the early stages of school? Quite often it's the way we communicate. There's so much in a visual communication.
Well, it isn't what you say, it's the way that you say it. I mean, I always say to people, you mean to be very careful, not to children, but I would say that we never have a discussion on the phone, because that can be so easily or misinterpreted, because you need to see the person that you're talking to, you need to see them, you have all those visual cues as well. No doubt about that.
And are they, because I know youngsters are picking up so much from games that they're playing now online, how is that influencing the way that, especially attention spans and all those sort of things?
Not that I've seen greatly in my own experience, but I know there are places, I know there are ones who are on games and things like that, but I haven't seen it greatly. Now that could be just the particular place where I am, but I know it can affect. You know, children are up playing computers all night, or watching TV in their rooms all night, or having access to that kind of internet that's unrestricted. That's not healthy. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, they're still children, and they still need their 10 hours. They do.
And what about the tactile? What about the kinesthetic side of teaching? Because that was something that kind of inspired you to want to get into that.
Oh, that still goes on. Oh, yeah. I mean, all the stuff that they learn by working with, and certainly that, yes, certainly in the young material and dressing up, and and in the various parts of their room, and their water, and playing with water and sand and bricks and building, and that's very important, yeah.
And I mean, I remember as a youngster just building plastic models, and I might have started, my dad probably showed me how to build a plastic model when I was about 7 or 8 or something. So and that means I'm following instructions and things. As the students get older, what sort of things do they get into?
They tend not to do as much as they get up, because then here in the north of Ireland, then sort of pretty much 5 or 6 things tend to become very academically oriented, with the looming spectre of the transfer test.
Right.
So a lot of the more practical stuff tends to go by the board. Then we're trying to encourage them to do PE, and have dexterity and their spatial awareness, more in that way of things. But that other stuff tends to go by the board because of the dreadful spectre of the transfer test, which you might have kind of gathered I'm not a fan of.
How much stress does that then bring?
Causes a lot of stress to the students, but I have found very often it's more stress to their parents.
Because they're trying to work out where the students need to go next. Or
I hesitate to be cruel, but I think with a lot of parents, it means more to them than it does to the children.
You know.
And the topic of the children being stressed, I think a lot of the stress comes from the parents to the children.
We know that we had two sons. They're post 25, both of them now. The eldest one, he did do the 11 plus at that point and went to the Abbey, and then kind of struggled through that system. The youngest fellow had dyslexia, so we said to him, look, you don't have to do it if you don't want to. He already knew which school he wanted to go to, and that's where his friends were going. So we thought we wouldn't put him through. And he thrived in that secondary school and achieved more GCSEs than the other fella.
We say that can very often happen. That can very often happen because, as I love to tell people, the whole thing is predicated upon the musings or the findings of a particular educational psychologist who, in his research, showed that intelligence was fixed by about the age of 11, and if you're at the age of 11, you were either academic or you were going to work with your hands. And that's, I mean, the whole thing about the actual 11 plus part of it is a small part of free education, which post World War II sort of went along hand in hand with the NHS, where the populace were able then, if they had the wherewithal and the ability to go to third level education, you didn't need money to go. You didn't have to go to the right school. If you had brains and you were able to pass the exams, you went on and could go to third level. That was a major social revolution. Major.
Do you think there's too much now being emphasised on a third level and even up to PhD level education?
It seems to be that they're trying to. Everybody should be going, but we still need people to build things, to make things. We still need electricians and plumbers and bricklayers, and we still need all those people. And I think in many ways that was kind of poo-pooed as something not as good as the academic, when it's equally, if not more so, important, and at times I would say possibly more lucrative. Especially
when things are going. One of the things that my sons are actually both engineers, and they're talking about automation and how that's going to impact upon their lives. Does that affect the way that you're starting to plan to teach students at all?
No. Not in the primary school. No.
Not in the primary school.
No, we're still doing what we do.
And you hope it will continue on, you think, for some time?
Well, I'm sure. I can't see it greatly changing, because the children will still need to be taught to read, and still need to be taught to write, and they'll still need to be taught their mathematics and how to add, subtract, multiply and divide. And then all the calculators in the world aren't going to help you if you don't know what you're doing. Yeah. As I tell the children, all the calculator does is sum very quickly. Doesn't think. You're the thinking part of the operation, so you have to know what it is you're doing. You have to be able to solve the problem, which, as you know, is the essence of intelligence, problem solving. When
I come to the end of an interview, because I think we've covered quite a lot of ground there, which I think is really good, and it's very positive, especially for teaching youngsters.
I enjoy it. Although I haven't said that I'm heading into my final year. I hope to retire at the end of this next academic year and finish with the teaching. Let somebody young have a go. Let somebody young and have a go, and I'll gracefully depart into the sunset, which is the right way. That's the right way of that's the right way of things. Your time comes, you do your time, and then you have to know when it's time to move on, and it's coming my time to move on.
Now, with all my guests, I normally ask the last question: is there anything I didn't give you a chance to say that you wanted to say?
No, it's fine. I mean, I could start saying frivolous things, but I won't. No, it's fine. I mean, sort of heading the future. I'm looking forward to the future to see what's going to transpire there. Be able to look back on, I'll have 37 years, and I think, my God, where did those 37 years go? Mostly fun. Not all the time. Mostly fun.
Gerry, thank you very much
Not a problem, George.
for your time today.
Not a problem.
It's been really, really good to have you on Let's Talk.
Thank you very much.
We have more on the way, so please subscribe to this channel and check out the link below if you'd consider becoming a patron to help us keep making more content. Thanks for watching.